No, no, that.
First and foremost,
Lovely story where you're welcome. We'll be checking
Some learned friends of ours that
amen, the public secretary of the PDP River.
Hello, welcome to our podcast where we dive into the intriguing world of Nigerian politics. We are going to be giving you trending stories in the polity. As they come, we update you. We're going to be discussing because a lot of political activities are ongoing. Today, we are discussing the story of Senator Natasha Apoti Uduan. Of course, very many of you already know the story, but we are going to be taking it bit by bit on events that have shaped the past few days. Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan is a lawmaker who has been making headlines for the wrong reasons, if you ask me. Initially, she started well. She had the sympathy and empathy of people, both the international community, the media, where she also went around to explain what actually led to her suspension. But unfortunately, the couple of months, it's not been very good. From struggling to navigate the Senate's rules to facing contempt charges. You know what that means? Like somebody who is becoming a serial lawbreaker and it's supposed to be a lawmaker. Natasha's journey has been marked by controversy and drama, a lot of drama. Of course, this is the era of content creation and everybody is doing something to be there in the news. Of course, I heard the Senate say she's only doing skit making. Well, we'll find out. Join us as we explore the details of her story and what it reveals about the inner workings of the Nigeria's legislative body. Join us as we embark on this good episode. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little background, to this story, so that those who have not, who don't have the updates, who don't have the information, will also be well informed. Well, Natasha Botiudwawa is a senator representing Kogi Central Senatorial District. She was inaugurated into the Senate 6 months after the other senators, which might have contributed to her struggles with the Senate's rules and procedures. Do you think so? Could that have been part of the reason why she's been battling, to keep up with the Senate rules, and procedures? Well, let's continue. Now, what's the issue, the controversy? According to reports, Natasha had difficulty adhering to Senate rules, often receiving reminders from the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, to follow proper protocol. Of course, every organization has their own protocol and rules of engagement. The situation escalated when she refused to obey the clerk of the Senate's instruction to change her seat, citing seniority. Of course, you know what it means. Once people defect from their parties to other, the seating arrangement changes. And I understand that in their law book, the Senate leadership has the power to, allocate seats and change seats at any time. There's no you don't need any pre-information for that. Okay, so you now have an idea of the genesis of this whole thing. We don't know whether there are undercurrent reasons, but this is the major thing that we we were told. And then, of course, the fallout, what happened? Natasha's refusal to comply with the Senate rules led to her being invited by the Ethics and Privileges Committee. However, she defied the invitation and instead she went to court to challenge her suspension. Yeah, she went to court to challenge her suspension. The court ordered all parties not to speak to the media until the matter is resolved. Well, let's see whether she had the opportunity to also, change her ways, in obeying the court. If you cannot obey the Senate, probably because of content or whatever, I don't know. She had a family relationship with the Senate president and all that, and she was given a lot of privileges, even though she's a first timer. She occupied a chairmanship position, that was originally reserved for high ranking senators, but she had that privilege. So I don't know, maybe let's go to the court and see what actually happened. When the court said, do not speak to the press pending the um, determination of the matter. Of course, she wasn't the only one, other parties, including the Senate president and his own group. Well, let's look at it. There were content charges. What happened? Despite the court's order, Natasha went ahead to write a satirical apology letter to the Senate president. Everybody saw that. You can also have a look at it. My crew, technical crew, if they have it, they can show it to you. There was this satire that she made, a mockery, a mock apology to the Senate president, and of course, for those who were enjoying the drama, it was a good laugh, to them. But of course, the courts don't engage in all that. The court is a place for serious business, and so the court frowned at it. Don't forget the court, the Federal High Court, um, led by Justice Bita Nyako. Well, then unfortunately, she was fined for contempt, not because she didn't show up, but because she went against the court's order. And she was fined an order to write a formal apology in two national dailies and even make the same apology on her Facebook page, which was the platform she used to actually write that satire. So, but what happened? Natasha refused to. Okay, she was given 7 days, and then within 7 days, everybody expected that she would come. But don't forget that there was this celebration that, she had won. I remember that the activist Aisha Yusuf was in court with her, and then she also, but unfortunately, that day she spoke to the press. You could see the frustration in her face, in her voice. The judgment they expected, they didn't get. They probably expected the court to indict, the Senate leadership, and then, reverse the suspension. Don't forget, it was a 6 month suspension. Yeah, but in the course of the judgment, which I have, I will also put up for you. If you don't have it, the judge did mention that, well, the 6 months was kind of excessive. Excessive in the sense that 6 months is like 180 days of sitting, and the Senate has a 181 or 82 days sitting in a year. So if you suspend her for 6 months, it's as good as suspending her for a whole year. And the court said it was excessive. I mean, the Senate should consider amending their rules. But what the court didn't say was that the Senate was wrong. It didn't say that the Ethics and Privileges Committee was wrong in that recommendation. No. It's a whole judgment. If you look at it, unfortunately, some persons were looking at the initial media spin and the comments that were coming from different parties, people who were probably interested or not, or interested parties in the matter. They didn't wait for the court. Well, Natasha had rejoiced and thanked Nigerians and thanked those who supported her. You can see that, after that judgment came. But funny enough, she said she was going to resume, but later on she said she was going to wait for the CTC of the judgment. You can also see that, out there. And then when the judgment came out, the first 3 pages we saw, it came out, and the judge was not explicit. That's for those of us who are not in the legal profession, but somehow we have a way of understanding this, particularly with Justice Bita Nyako. And I said it in one of my analysis. I said Justice Nyako had just given a judgment that will afford parties to seek, maybe go to the appeal court to get something definite, because she didn't make any consequential orders, but she made in the judgment, she touched on a number of things, and then she's also agreed with maybe the Natasha, probably her fundamental rights was being trampled on, but she didn't come out to say that since it was so, this is the remedy. I think she was also trying to bank on the separation of duties, because of course the Senate, the National Assembly, the legislature is a different arm of government, just like the judiciary. And so each of them have their own rules. Don't forget that the judiciary also has theirs. But in any case, when somebody's rights are being trampled on, you can also go to court, to seek to enforce your fundamental human rights, but not forgetting your fundamental human duties. And then, of course, you are bound by the rules of engagement of the National Assembly, of the Senate, knowing that you are there representing your constituents. It's not just about you. So what you do outside or even before you become part of the National Assembly is totally a different ball game. Even if you are doing into activism, by the time you get into the National Assembly, you will be asked to toe, the path of the rules. You must understand this thing. Some persons say, ask, even Natasha had said something, is the Senate a cult, and the way they behave there and on. Well, it's a leadership, just like every Nigerian is patriotic, and pays allegiance to the Nigerian nation, and maybe also the president who represents um, the constitution, who represents the people. I mean, you should understand that if you're part of an organization or a group, you will learn to abide by the rules of engagement. Well, we are still testing that constitutionality of that, whether the National Assembly, the Senate, has such powers, to suspend, even whether it's short or a long period. Well, some persons have said it's not supposed to be more than 2 weeks, but those on the side of the senior leadership have also brought evidence to show that they have the right, depending on the severity of the issue. Well, it's not that it's strange seeing senators stir some form of controversy on the floor of the house. We've seen sometimes even people engage in fights and all that, but in a way to curb some of those excesses. People are punished for wrongdoing, and of course, people are also rewarded for doing well. Don't forget that some of them have also, including Natasha, have received Senator of the Year award, for doing well for her constituents. So whatever it is, if you also do well, you'll be rewarded. If you don't do well, you will be punished. So, and well, as that matter is on, we're still trying to find out, what's next. Now, the Senate leadership and the spokesman of the Senate, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, had said severally that there was nowhere in that judgment where the court ordered that Natasha should resume or be recalled. But Natasha says otherwise. Her own group think otherwise. Some commentators also and senior legal luminaries have also said no, that she ought to resume. And that was before the full judgment, made airways. And when I got it and I went through it, I didn't see any line there where the judge had insisted that she should resume duties or she should be recalled. There was no such order. Rather, she gave her opinion, what lawyers call obiter dictum. Don't ask me what that means. You can always verify. Of course, obiter dictum means her own suggestion and her own thought on the matter, not that it is an order. So it is not binding on the court. But the Senate can decide to also take the advice of the judge by going back to amend the rule. So what's next? Two things. Is either the Senate decides to say, okay, we are going to bring down the 6 months suspension, maybe to 3 months, 2 months, or thereabout, whatever as the case may be. And of course, if they do that, they will pass through the process. It may not be a day thing. And then if that happens, then she will, of course, be recalled. Or there could be a political solution to that. They could find a way to also reconcile, and they make amendments and concessions here and there. It's expected that Natasha could also approach the Senate leadership through some of her party, her colleagues in the same party, or even friends on the other side, and reach out to the leadership. Personally, I don't think that the Senate president is a difficult person. And this, of course, considering the fact that they have had a good relationship, the family, in as much as I think she went overboard in accusing the Senate president of sexual harassment, which until now, we are yet to see any evidence to that effect. We don't even know what has become of that case in court. Well, it's all there, but whatever it is, where there's a will, there's a way. If they have the political will to resolve this thing, outside the courtrooms, it can be done, and then of course she will go back and continue to represent her people and engage meaningfully. So now, like, I said when I started, is Natasha a serial lawbreaker? Is she a victim of ignorance? Very many people aspire, even those who are appointed into government offices, they must take their time to understand the rules of engagement. I had a friend, or I have a friend, she was appointed into the Federal Executive Council. Naturally, knowing her from when we were much younger, she's that kind of person. We used to call ourselves people who fight for people's cause, fighting for justice, and I think she took that a bit too far, activism and all that. She meant well to fight for the rights of the downtrodden and all that, to fight, to speak up when she finds something wrong. But you must do that within the confines of the law. You are not just maybe a minister or a director or whatever. You are an aide, an appendage of the president. So you must speak. When you speak, it's assumed that the president has spoken. So you must ensure that you don't go off the radar, because if you do that, you'll be booted out, you'll be sacked. It doesn't matter what your contributions to the success of the party may have been. So that's that. I think that's actually the challenge our sister has here. She is eager to make impact and to make a change and let her voice be heard. Well, she doesn't know that in doing so, what you have outside, it's not the same as what you have. You must abide by the rules of engagement. She even tried to like invoke under 10 means that she has to be allowed to speak. But don't forget, she was asked to go to the seat she was allocated to first before speaking. And of course, the court also agreed with the leadership of the Senate. In all said and done, it's not like the case favored her. Well, what happened? That's the next thing I'm going to tell you as we come back. Don't go away. Yeah, welcome back as we continue to look at the issue of Natasha Apoti Udual and her inability or failure to respect constituted authority and abide by the rules of engagement. We started by telling you how she defied or she failed to adhere to Senate rules, of engagement, and that also extended to the court, where she was also charged for contempt and asked to pay 5 million naira and then, of course, publish her apology letters. Well, Natasha said the day she tried to resume the Senate, she went there with some of her constituents and some colleagues who have been on her side, and then she insisted that she was not going to apologize, which means she's defying the court a second time. Does that speak well for a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for somebody that other young ladies and even young men are looking up to be their voice? I mean, no matter how you think you are right, you must obey the law. You have to obey the law, whether it's favorable or not, and then you can pursue your appeal at a higher court. I think that that's what she ought to have done the moment that judgment came out, and she didn't like it because she was given 7 days. She allowed the 7 days to elapse, and then of course she tried to find her way at the National Assembly. Don't forget the powers that be. Through the sergeant at arms, the security was tightened and they couldn't gain access. Of course, she said she hadn't been given a formal reason why she wouldn't be allowed in. Don't forget that her lawyer had written the senior leadership and they responded, telling him that there was no part of the order that said she should resume or she should be recalled. So telling the world that she didn't get any formal reason why she shouldn't resume, I think that puts a lot of a question mark to her style. I don't want to accuse her or use any derogatory word, but again, I think that Natasha has a problem in dealing with constituted authorities, and then also navigating some of these roadblocks, in terms of well, they are constitutional roadblocks because they are by you before you even you're inaugurated, you're given the rule book and you go and study and then see where you need to also improve on yourself. Unfortunately, she didn't do that, and now she says she's not obeying the court. And well, we hear that she has gone to the appeal court. The Senate also has gone to the appeal court. So maybe the appeal court will speak and then we'll know what next. But for now, she's not returning. And I understand that the National Assembly will soon be going on their mandatory 2 month break. And of course, what it means is that she's going to be at home much more longer. Well, she says she's still busy, providing what her constituents need back home, empowering them and making sure that she fulfills her dream, of lifting her constituents, But without the National Assembly, what more can you do? I mean, it would have been as good as not, bothering yourself to contest the election, not bothering yourself to go to court, and not bothering yourself to be a senator. And then you just stay. A lot of persons are out there doing something for their constituents without even having the opportunity to be at the National Assembly. Anyway, I want to thank you for tuning again to this episode of our podcast. We will continue to explore this topic and its implications for Nigerian politics. And then also we'll continue to have on the importance of respecting institutional rules and procedures. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, continue to like, subscribe, share, and comment. I've told you we are going to be dealing more with trending stories in Nigerian politics. God bless you.